When the California Youth Connection was founded by 17 young people back in 1988, legislators in Sacramento knew very little, if anything, about foster care. 30 years ago, young people were aging out of foster care at 18, often given a trash bag for their belongings and little to no direction. We still have a ways to go to ensure that all young people who experience foster care have permanency and the support they need to thrive into adulthood. But thanks in large part to CYC, foster youth in California can now remain in foster care until 21, access support to get into and persist in college, and maintain relationships with their siblings so they no longer have to try to reconnect with them after exiting foster care.
CYC is one of the most important organizations that we are fortunate enough to have in the state of California, and I can say, because I experienced it personally, that about 80% of the bills that we passed in Sacramento in the years I was there were pieces of legislation, proposals that came directly from the California Youth Connection. Not only has CYC had an incredible impact in California, but its impact is being felt around the country.
I think that every young person deserves to be happy and safe and healthy, and I think that the people who know how best to make that happen are other young people.
CYC impacts us because it gives us courage, it gives us motivation, it gives us drive, it gives us something to focus on that we all tend to somehow, by the thousands, wanted to focus on in the first place.
You have to be very careful to try to pre-frame a conversation or try to push it in a direction because you think this should be the outcome. I think you just have to be, staff and the board too have to respect the fact that we help execute a youth-driven agenda, and we don't manipulate the process or try to frame a process in a way that gets a specific outcome or a specific priority that we care about. That's not our job. Our job is to be supportive of what you think are the most important things.
CYC is an invitation to a family you didn't know you needed. It's an unspoken understanding. It's an opportunity to transform yourself and the system. I've noticed that CYC is a chain breaker and a path maker.
Some of my best skills are like public speaking and speaking in front of people. Not a lot of people are super confident at that, and I feel like being in CYC, I've really been empowered, especially by some of the people that I've met, and just in all walks of life, not even just professionally, just even whether it's having the idea of like living in the Bay Area or seeing all the fun stuff that Kevin does, you know, going out to hike and camping and climbing mountains. That's awesome. You know, it's always cool to surround yourself around people that I guess lift you up. Like that's what CYC has taught me. It's taught me to surround myself around people that are positive. Every single time that I've come out with the CYC fam, I've had a great time, and every single time I come out and see anybody in CYC, I'm embraced with love and warmness, and it's just the best time coming out.
Through the chapter members that I've had relationships with, I feel like they've grown into better people, or into a better flower, like a bigger flower. They got more petals, and I feel like they just blossomed. And CYC was the bee that had to come in and take the pollen. And it was it's if you look at our youth from just a couple years ago and you look at them now, it's you wouldn't even recognize them. They are so grown up, and we all have these amazing connections now because of CYC.
I'm in CYC because I think there's that part of every human that you gotta be part of something that's bigger than yourself, and I think that CYC is just kind of aligns with my life story and with my desire to be a part of something bigger than myself.
It is not an understatement to say that thousands of children and youth in California have lives that are far better than they would have been were it not for the work of CYC. There is no better voice for foster care change than the youth themselves who've experienced it. But you harness that voice and you amplify that voice. And because of you, Foster youth are more likely to be placed with their siblings. They're less likely to grow up in institutions. They're more likely to achieve their educational goals. They're more likely to obtain mental health services that they need, and that's because of you. So on behalf of all the county welfare directors in the state and all the staff here at CWDA, I just want to commend you, CYC, and tell you that we look forward to being your partner for the next 30 years of making positive change for the youth who deserve no less.
CYC both inspires because of your courage, but because of your honesty and the way you share reality in your stories, you create blinding insights that don't come from anywhere else. And so, thank you, and make me one promise: you will always keep coming back.
And as I stand here with each and every one of you today, knowing that it's not about you, knowing that it's about you raising your collective voices.
That's right.
And making sure that the people in this building hear your voices. I've heard your stories. Individuals have come to my district. You have told me the challenges. You have told me the heart-wrenching stories of the things that you have to go through and deal with. The challenges day in and day out. Being displaced from one home to another. Moving from school to school. You have shared those stories with me. And you give me hope, you give me the energy that I need to go back in this building and advocate on behalf of every foster youth in the state of California. So I'm excited that you're here today.
The youth have the voice. They know what's inside of them, and it comes out. And CYC brings those soft skills out, the ability to connect, the ability to advocate, these life skills that they're going to take with them for the rest of their lives. Not only that, they're making history every time they pass legislation. And we just came out of 2 legislative visits, and the smiles on our youth's faces, the confidence that it gives them, it's just, it never gets old. It never gets old. And it's youth empowerment at its finest.
Taught me that I have a voice and that I am a leader and that I can empower others, and that it's also empowered me. And it's taught me that my past can help other people instead of bringing me down.
CYC is a national model for what it is to get youth involved, both current and former foster youth, to take their rightful seat at the table in making policy and making change so the system can do better for future kids. I also am an adoptee myself from the system in North Carolina, and I know that it takes mentors, it takes social workers, it takes family and friends to really become all that you want to be, all that you can be. I didn't have the kind of support that CYC provides, and I look forward to utilizing that support in my role as Director of the Los Angeles County Department of Children and Family Services. Here's to you, CYC, to another spectacular 30 years.
I believe the biggest impact CYC has had on young people's lives, especially the members, is created a process where members can transition from being youth to adults, actually helping them finding the skills within themselves to be able to be not just advocates in their communities, but people actually speak up for their own values and their beliefs on many different levels. I believe the biggest way CYC has impacted young people across the organization is giving them a chance to add their voice. So when we talk about what community means, we often go out there and say community is everyone, community is participation of all groups, but we say that in front of people, but we don't live that out in practice. And I believe CYC has been an organization that has allowed the world, not only California, but youth all over the place, and people who aren't a part of, the 14 to 24-year-old cohort, to be a part of the community and really be heard.
I definitely have seen that. I mean, even in my exposure, working with CYC and as a board member, I've seen people sort of transform into leaders, even overnight, a day at the Capitol. And then, so I think there's that, the impact on individual leaders, and there's also the impact on the system that these leaders are going out and changing things for young people in the entire state of California.
We're not only giving youth voice, but also giving them the opportunity to build off of it too. So public speaking skills, strategic sharing, understanding, like Miguel said, that we're a part of something bigger. We're supporting our brothers and sisters in the foster care system in California.
So before I joined CYC, I didn't know my rights or anything in the system. I wasn't very educated on things that were going on within the system, and then I kind of let things go in my foster homes. But once I joined CYC, I realized that like I had a voice, and that if you work hard enough, like it'll be heard.
It's taught me that I have a future. It's taught me that no matter what, I can do whatever I want, and dreams can become goals, and then goals can become reality.
One of the things that I always admire about the youth is they're challenged to speak about more than just their own direct experience, and they're challenged to be representative, and to think, and that's what's so great about CYC is there's so much interaction between the youth. They hear other experiences, and that all goes into the knowledge bank when they develop policy. So yeah, I think it's very unique. I came from the federal level where the only youth engagement with the policymaking process is like an organization has a set agenda, they find a youth who had an experience that fits in with that agenda, and you just plop them into the narrative. They are tokenized along the way, and then you move forward. Whereas here, the youth challenge each other, and then they challenge policymakers and other advocates about their assumptions to really drive policymaking. I think not just society, but also government and advocacy all benefits from direct youth engagement, because we learn things. I speak as an advocate now. We learn things that we wouldn't know about our issues, because maybe we aren't living the day-to-day. Or even people who live the day-to-day, maybe they lived the day-to-day 10 or 15 years ago, and the system's dynamic and it's very different now. So I always think back to the sibling bill that CYC pushed like 3 years ago. None of the other advocates were thinking about sibling connections and sibling-related issues. Everyone was focused on how do you move money around and how do we prevent foster care, and I think it's because most advocates haven't been in the system, and what's the first concern that you have probably being in the system is where are my brothers and sisters, and why are we living together, and why do we not have even the ability to talk on the phone if we're not living together. So I think it informs the debate, and it keeps the debate honest to what's actually happening in the system, like at a given time.
So what do I hope for CYC in the next 30 years? I hope that CYC continues to strengthen their policy impact and changing the lives of other foster youth who may not even know what CYC is at the moment, but are impacted by it right now.
I imagine CYC to be really big in the next 30 years. No, I take that back. I'd almost want CYC to not really be too big, because I'd like to think that we had done so much work in 30 years that there's not so many issues to where it need to be such a big cause.
It allows us to be a team. It allows us not to feel alone. And in 30 years, CYC is just going to be even more amazing. 60 years is a long time. 30 years is long already, being that I'm about 8 to 10 years younger than that. So if my mother was able to know about it, if my father or anyone before me that was in the system, I'm pretty sure it would have the same impact. So all I can do is stay devoted to something that's devoted to me and my family, and we're going to make sure that in 30 years, I can ensure that Riverside chapter is going to be very good. The way we actively engage in our community is just so strong, like this.
Congratulations on a terrific 30-year legacy, and may the great work continue.